really technical. Uh, that was the other thing I was supposed to tell you. If you do not want to be recorded, please turn off your video because we will be recording. Unless there are any other logistical questions, I just want to say thank you again for joining us. It's nice to see familiar faces and it's nice to see new faces too. And I'm going to turn it over to Liz. Oh, our two presenters tonight, I have to say, really know what they're talking about. They are experienced in decarbonization and they have a lot of information to share with you. Liz Robinson, Central Philadelphia Monthly Meeting, will be talking about residential incentives, and Bert Dallas from Radnor Monthly Meeting will be talking about commercial incentives. So unless there's something else I've forgotten, Liz or Bert, I think we can just start the real program here with you, Liz.
Sure. We'll dive on in. I'm going to share my screen. Thanks so much, Ruth, for the introduction. What we'll ask everyone to do is put your questions in the chat, and we will answer as many of those as we can as we go along. We expect, to be able to leave about 20 minutes at the end for live questions. But if you've got questions, we want to make sure we can get to them. So please put them in the chat. We'll answer as many as we can as we go. Let's see here. Oops. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Great. Alrighty. All right. So many of you know a lot about this. So I know that we're talking to a very experienced audience. So Bert and I are going to cover a lot of ground and hopefully touch on the things that you're most interested in. You all know that the IRA has this amazing bundle of incentives, and some of those have been passed on to the states. So the states are also administering new programs, and that's true for all states. Whether you're from Pennsylvania or New Jersey, you've got now new state programs that are the result of the IRA. The so just focusing on where the problems are, where the greenhouse gases are in the United States. This is the little pie chart on the right-hand corner. The largest wedge now is transportation. So it is important, to really focus on transportation and to clean up transportation. So we're going to touch on that tonight. And electric power is still the second heaviest one. But the little orange wedge, residential and commercial buildings, that's what we're really focused on tonight. So buildings and a little bit of transportation. So this little diagram from this graphic from DOE is one of my favorites. It lays out the systems in a typical home and makes it really easy to think about how to decarbonize. So the first step is always energy efficiency, and those are the orange boxes. And the next step is to replace any fossil fuel appliances with high efficiency electric appliances. And those are the burgundy, kind of the reddish color. And the third area is if you can put solar on your home, to consider that. So using your own clean energy directly. And then, of course, transportation, symbolized by this EV in the garage. If you're lucky enough to be able to charge at home, that's a marvelous advantage. And batteries are, something people are considering more and more these days for reliability. So that is very much a personal decision. But this little diagram kind of brings it all together. Diving into the IRA, the single largest chunk of incentives are the tax credits. And in the energy efficiency space, it's a 30% federal tax credit for many, 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 many items. I just have a small sample of the items here, but the energy efficiency home improvement credit covers a lot of things. Um, my family has already used this several times, and our most recent one was we replaced our gas water heater with a heat pump water heater, and we qualified for 30% tax credit on that purchase, on that installation. So these tax credits are not just material, but also labor. So it's the total cost of the installation. So 30% is for everyone, regardless of your income. There is a maximum of $1,200 per year that you can take, except for the two items, I'm sorry, except for heat pumps. So heat pumps, the maximum goes to $2,000 a year. So just keep that in mind. You can't do all of these things at once and get the maximum tax credits all at once. So it's a good thing actually to do a little bit every year, chip away at this. There are two links here to draw your attention to. The first link is the IRS. This is loaded with all the detail that you need, and I really highly recommend that you keep this one handy. The IRS website has improved so much under the Biden administration. It's really hard to believe. It's actually very easy to use. The information is right at your fingertips, and it's just really user friendly. So this is something that, I really commend to you. The second link is a much broader set of resources. It's kind of a compendium of resources. So it has a lot of different things. So when we send these slides to you, you'll be able to use these directly. So you don't need to write this stuff down. Switching gears now, moving away from the federal government to our local utilities. In Pennsylvania and New Jersey, we have state required energy efficiency programs. Both states require energy efficiency. And I didn't check the Jersey rebates. Some of these rebates are only visible to you if you are a customer of that utility. So I'm a Pico customer, and I, made this little chart comparing Pico and PP&L, but all the utilities have rebates on many, many items. Most of the utilities use a relaxed standard. It's not as high as the federal government's standard for efficiency. So most of the items just have to meet Energy Star certification, which these days is pretty low. So you can exceed that, but you need to make sure that the appliance that you're buying is at least Energy Star certified. So again, when my husband and I installed our heat pump water heater, we applied for both the federal tax credit and the PICO rebate. And the PICO rebate is super easy to get. I have, as the person, the bill is in my name, so I have a little thing called My Account on the PICO website, and that enables me to communicate with PICO and monitor my account directly online. It's very handy. I recommend this to everybody. And I applied for the rebate online, and bingo, a check arrived 2 weeks later. So $350. It's important to make sure you know the information requirements ahead of time. So, for example, with this water heater, we had to, in both for the federal tax credit and the PICO rebate, we had to tell them what kind of gas water heater, the make and model of the gas water heater was. So we had to have that information of the old one as well as the new one. So, if you're hiring a contractor to do these things for you, don't let him take away the old one before you get the information that you need. So just make sure you know what the information requirements are before you complete the process. Um, Now I'm going to switch gears again. I hope I'm not giving anybody vertigo, but I'm switching gears again. This is a new program. And in the federal process, there are two. Bruce, could you mute your audio? Um, there are two new programs. The first one is called the Home Electrification and Appliance Rebate, or HEAR, HEAR program. This is coming soon. I think New Jersey's program has already rolled out, but Pennsylvania is a little behind New Jersey, which is, normal. We're always behind New Jersey. It's just our thing. But anyway, we're this program has very, very significant rebates. You'll notice that they're much higher than the utility rebates or even the federal. So this is a really important, if you qualify, this is going to be a really important thing for people to use. There are two tiers. The 100% of the rebate is available to people whose income is at or below 80% of area median income. For a lot of people on retirement income, that's going to be possible. So 80% of AMI, you get 100% of the rebate. If you're between 80 and 150% of AMI, you get half of that total. So you get 50% of the total rebate. And frankly, this is most of our states. It's certainly, it's going to be a lot of people. So most people will qualify for the HERE program. And this is a list of what you can expect those rebates to be. This link I put on here, Rewiring America. Rewiring America is this fantastic nonprofit that has developed buckets of new tools. And this one, the Personal Electrification Planner, is really nice. It really helps you organize your projects and plan what you're going to do in your home. It's a very nice tool. So I really commend that to everybody. So in New Jersey, I'm not sure how this program is rolling out, but in Pennsylvania, it will roll out through existing channels. And the two channels that have been identified are the utility programs, so Utility Act 129 programs, which are available to every rate class. Those programs are going to incorporate this HERE program and also the Low Income Weatherization Assistance Program. And so I think that's marvelous for many reasons, one of which is that people will be dealing with high quality contractors. These contractors are fully insured, they're vetted, and in both cases, there's a very high quality standard of installation. So, and the equipment will be, very high quality. So I'm delighted that our state, Pennsylvania, has decided to roll this program out through the Weatherization Assistance Program and the Utility Act 129 programs. The programs are going to hit the street in February. All of the details are being locked down now. So as we, as Eco Justice Collaborative, learns of more of these actual details, like how to apply and things like that, we can communicate that to everyone. That is coming soon. The next program is the Home Efficiency Rebate Program. It's also going to be administered in Pennsylvania by the DEP. In Pennsylvania, this program is only going to be touching low-income, multifamily, affordable housing. And this program is behind schedule, I would say, and it's not going to be available until mid next year. So a lot of details are still very sketchy. Switching gears to vehicles. Um, Many of you already know this, but for an electric vehicle, the incentive for a new car is $7,500 tax credit. And for a used EV, it's $4,000. These links are directly to the section of the IRS code that you need, because every year that this vehicle tax credit is in place, the details are going to change a tiny bit. So what was true in 2024 may not be true in 2025. So it's going to be very important to check the IRS website. And again, it's very easy to use, really clear information. My husband and I bought an EV a year ago, and we applied for and received the $7,500 tax credit. In almost all cases now, the dealer takes the tax credit off the purchase price. So the price you pay includes the discount. So you don't have to bother applying for the tax credit yourself. When Paul and I bought our car, that was not yet in place. So we had to apply for the credit. But nowadays, the credit is already taken off of the price of the car. There happen to be a lot of really good used EVs on the market right now. My son has been looking into this, and it's really quite amazing the quality of the cars that are on the market and that qualify for this $4,000 tax credit. So consider that if you haven't already bought an EV. And so the question is, will you, after you do all of this, are you going to be seeing higher energy bills? The answer is no. You should be saving money on your energy bills. And so far for my family, that's the case. Our gas bill and gasoline bills have gone down more, much more than our electric bill has gone up. So that's what you need to look at is how much are you saving in fossil fuel versus what is the increment that you're spending on electricity. The federal government estimates it'll be about $2,600 a year in savings. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Bert.
Okay, thank you. Let's see if I can share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen up there? The Direct Pay Through Inflation Reduction Act.
Not yet. Try it again.
No.
Too slow
No?
in bringing mine down.
Okay, let's try it again. That and there. Can you see that now? Hello?
No. Click it twice.
Okay, like this?
Double click. See if it'll bring it up.
No?
To hit share screen.
Did you hit
Hit that-
share screen a second time after you pulled it
no.
up?
Yeah,
At the
hit that.
bottom where it says share.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
hit that.
Okay,
Try that.
okay, so I'll share screen and do that. Now is it there?
No.
No? Okay, sorry about this. Let's try this one more time. When I say share screen, is that it?
Yes.
Okay, finally.
It says
Okay,
double click to enter there we go. Now you got it.
okay, I am full screen sharing. Okay, thank you, Liz, for the clear and comprehensive overview of what we have available to us now. And thank you, everyone, for being with us here tonight. And I will be presenting something that's a bit different. It's more of a guided tour of what is online of the rebates and tax benefits that can use through the federal government. And disclosure here, I'm not an accountant, tax or investment advisor, and this is just what I have found looking around there. All these sites that are in this presentation were active as of yesterday when I put this together. And last year, I put together a presentation in November, and most of these trailed off to nowhere. And now, since earlier this year, since March, since the springtime, they have been basically populated with paths to where you can actually utilize them. And so, a quick background. It was passed in 2022, and the expenditures are expected to be about $971 billion. And those that pertain to what we're looking at now are about 9% of that. So most of the IRA is Inflation Reduction Act is going to sources of electricity providing more. Mostly these tax credits are, I mean, the rebates are presented as tax credits. And if you have pay $4,000 in taxes and you have $2,000 in rebates, therefore you only have to pay $2,000 in taxes that year. Low income and moderate income households can get additional rebates or larger rebates than that. And one of the reasons that I was looking at this is because my meeting, Radnor meeting, in the past 3 months installed a heat pump for the meeting house. And there were 3 heat pumps that went into it. And I am investigating how to receive the benefit for that. There are 2 ways generally. One of them is a direct pay, and the other is an elective pay process. If you a direct pay, what you paid would be coming back to the purchaser of the equipment, of the installation. An elective pay transfers the money to who had done it, the contractor. And in these slides, the links are active. So as you go through this, if you download it and go through it, you will be able to trace back to where we were looking at it. So this is the starting point for it, the whitehouse.gov Clean Energy Direct Pay. And it's a towards the bottom of the page, they have the process in 6 steps for that and an expected timeline. This is for 2023. If it was installed in 2023, and then further along for every year. And then at the bottom of it is a 41-minute webinar by the government about what you can expect. So it went right to the site there. It describes its talks about who is available for it. And here on other tax exempt entities, that is would be our meeting house. Who is eligible? A 501c3 organization, public charities, or houses of worship and others. And so how do we apply for it? And we'll look at each one of these in a few moments and what those go to. And so here's a sample of the timeline big. And this is a look at the webinar that they have up there from the federal government. It had loaded much more quickly before. And well, you can see the preview buttons. It's basically, they are looking at the different aspects of it with links to the federal sites and documents that you would need to provide. Okay, so yeah, it's overviews, and we'll stop this.
Requirement that I'll discuss later.
Okay, so how do we get back out of this?
And so electric pay applies to 12 of the credits that we'll list.
Okay.
And so we're tracking, this is the first filing season with electric pay.
And so we're just going to
February, entities that already requested registration numbers for more
go
than
back a little.
450 projects or facilities. So we're excited to see
Would friends mute their microphone if they're
Yeah.
not speaking, please?
I think that's the website he's connected to.
Yeah, that was the website. I think I just canceled out of it. So let me go back to Zoom. Energy.
We're still seeing your slide,
Oh, you're still seeing this slide right here.
the
Great. Okay, I wasn't
whitehouse.gov
seeing it. It
slide.
was back behind it. Okay.
Yeah, you may have to reshare your screen,
Can
picking
you
that
see it?
new thing.
No?
Oh,
Okay.
I'm seeing it.
You're seeing it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we're
I'm-
seeing it. I think you can go ahead, Bert.
Okay, so I'm going back to, here, now you can see it. I'll
Mhm.
just flip to the next
Yes,
page.
yes.
Okay. So the first thing you need to do is basically develop the project. And you see there's an arrow. This is a link that will send you over to the energy efficiency home improvement credits. And through that link, you can go to any issues that it describes it more fully. I am screen sharing. And on the next one, this is key. Step 2 here is you can only use direct pay after you have earned the tax credit. So you do the work first, you undertake the expenditure unless you have a contractor who will accept elective pay. And you can figure out how much that would be. And they will then accept the elective pay as part of the bargain. And now determine when the tax credit will due, which basically is the year in which it is done when you file your taxes. For instance, we installed the heat pumps a couple of months ago, and in another couple of months, we're going to be putting in the insulation. And that would go into the next benefit year for that. Now you have to, you have to complete a pre-filing registration with the IRS. So that is one of the wrinkles about this, that you have to pre-file for the tax benefit. You have to, and we'll come up to that in a minute. Here's issues that come in with the pre-filing. This one is an important one, 5884. This is the guide for it. And yeah, this goes on for many pages, and it will load slowly. And towards the bottom of it, there are a number of screens that it will guide you through what information they need from you in terms of what it was, what it cost, your invoices from the contractor who put it in, full cost. They will probably have some costs about is it American-made material, domestic material, or foreign materials. The rate is different for the both of them. And these are what you would be looking at. Okay, I'll close that. And let's see if can we go back to this one. All right, are you back at seeing the pre-filing registration?
Yes.
Great. Okay, good. I'm getting the hang of this now. So these are publications that show how to do. There is one here that has a direct pay portal walkthrough, and about the credits. These are a lot of background information about that. And here is, once you receive your registration number, you file your tax return by the due dates. I suppose that would be April 15th for most individuals who are doing a home improvement, and I don't know what it would be for most meeting houses. I guess if you have an accountant, the accountant could tell you what it is. But as it says here, it is typically Form 990T for most entities that don't normally file a tax return. So you're filing a tax return specifically to get the rebate. And one of the things in there is you would need to establish an tax ID number or use an individual's tax ID. So this is what Form 990T looks like, a typical IRS form. And then there is, here is Form 5695. It goes all the way over here, 3 pages. And that is a one, 5695, that basically you enter the information about your expenses and other things that need to qualify. So these are background informations about what the government will provide to you. I was clicking to all of them before, and they're all active, but I'm a little skittish about it now. Anyway, this is a couple of links that are truly very good. One of them, the interface, power, and lights, is I think the most comprehensive web pages that I've seen about the process, and helpful. They also, the second link has about I guess about half a dozen different webinars that they have sponsored, and they are there for you. And this is the Energy Star's guide to federal tax credits and what you can achieve through that. And at the bottom was something that I saw that I can't recommend it too seriously because I'd never seen it. It's not government, but it is they say it is lawyersforgoodgovernment.org. Sounds good? I don't know. But you can go there, and they've done trainings for how to submit your issue for reimbursement there. So there, it was a 2-day seminar that they did on it. They have the slides and they have the webinar itself. And did I just lose mine?
Bert, we
Good.
probably need to move on.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So good timing, because that was it. Thank you. This is my email address. If you want, please get in touch with me. I'll be happy to help you. And if because this is where I am now, I'm going to continue digging into it. And if you have more information, please send me that information. That's to build up the library of what we know. And also, QuakerAct.org is also sponsoring this. And I believe that's it.
Great, thanks. Bert, if you stop sharing, I can bring up my final slides.
Okay.
Should be
Okay. Screen has chopped. Okay.
great. All right, so this is our final section. Talk very briefly about solar. So for anybody who's considering putting solar on your home or on your school or your meeting house, this is the time. There has never been a better batch of incentives. The investment tax credit is 30% of the total project cost. It also includes batteries if you want battery storage. And I should also say there is also a 30% tax credit for a ground source heat pump. So I'm not going to spend time on all this detail, but it is possible for people who, let's say you're out in state college, there's a 10% adder called energy communities. So it's possible that you might qualify your commercial building might qualify for the energy communities adder, and that would bring you up to 40% tax credit. So it's really important to look at these adders on the IRS site. And as Bert mentioned so eloquently, tax exempt entities are finally included. So this works for all schools, all municipal government buildings, all meeting houses, and the IRS will send you a check. So the money comes back to you directly in the form of a refund, essentially, even if you don't have much tax liability to offset. So it's a phenomenal change. And I'm going to say one thing about this here at this juncture, which is that the final rules have been promulgated for the direct pay. And that means that it's very difficult for the Trump administration to undo that. So if final rules have been promulgated, it's a much more difficult change to make. It's not something that he can do by executive order, for example. So there are many, many advantages of going solar. The energy bill savings are very real. You increase your resilience, offsetting CO2 emissions. It's just it's a wonderful way to go. And for a commercial building, a school or a meeting house, it really stabilizes your energy costs because you insulate yourself from future rate increases. So these are all the incentives for solar that are available in Pennsylvania. Now, Jersey has even better incentives, but you've got the federal tax credit. You can sell your solar renewable energy credits into the market. In Jersey, the value of those credits is much higher than it is in Pennsylvania, and that's also true in Maryland. In Pennsylvania, though, we have full net metering. So it's retail in, retail out. You get full retail value for every kilowatt hour of solar that you generate, and that's a huge incentive. And it also increases the value of your property. This varies depending upon where you live, but in Philly, for example, it's about 8%. There are many other ways to go solar. You don't have to own the system. You can lease it. I've got just one leasing company here that I like very much, Posigen. New Jersey and Maryland both have community solar. We don't have community solar here yet in Pennsylvania, but we're working on community choice aggregation, which is a similar construct. And then there's also virtual meter aggregation. If you live in a neighborhood in an area that has a group purchasing program, in Philadelphia, we have Solarize Philly. This is the way to go because what you get is a very high quality at the lowest possible price. The municipality is running interference for you on your behalf with a utility. So you get very low hassle factor and really good quality service and engagement. There's also usually some quality assurance built into the program. In Philly, our program, Solarize Philly, covers both residential and commercial buildings, which is awesome. And it includes both ownership and leasing options. So it's available also to low-income people. So it's really extraordinary. It's very well thought out. And they also have a loan program that's awesome. I'll just spend a second on this. We developed a Solar Schools Toolkit last year. There is now in Pennsylvania a state grant program for solar schools, for schools to go solar. The deadline for that application is January 30th. And if you're interested in that, contact me and I can tell you more about it. And this is just another list. I think this probably overlaps a little bit with what Bert has in his slides, but just to make sure you have at your fingertips really excellent resources. DOE's resources are extraordinary. And one thing I will say is that in the last Trump administration, many federal websites stripped a lot of the useful information off of their websites. So I would start downloading some of this material if I were you. So I'm just going to say that. DOE's website is phenomenal. And I'm starting to download documents that I really like just to make sure that I have them. So, all right, now we get to the real questions. So, would anyone like to ask a question? Just raise your hand and we'll call you. Michelle.
Thank you both for sharing a lot of information. I am interested as a renter, what kind of incentives there might be or how we might motivate our landlords in our buildings to look towards solar options and energy efficiency in general. Thank you.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and a lot of members of our meeting have been working on their apartment, and we have some success stories of people who've gotten their condo or their apartment building to install EV chargers in their parking lot. That is absolutely critical because people have to charge overnight. So it's really important to do, to organize through whatever organization you've got in your apartment building or your condo, to use that organization to say to the building owner, this is something you need. And all the data, I don't have the data at my fingertips, but all the data shows that increasingly renters want the same advantages, they want the same services, and the renters are more likely to rent from a project that has an EV charger. They're also more likely to stay. So the landlord wants good tenants and he wants stable tenants. And it is absolutely true that if a landlord has, half a brain, he's going to start giving tenants these amenities that they want. So I'm optimistic that, this is possible. As they said, a number of members of our meeting have succeeded already.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Jackie?
Um, I've talked to someone who had installed solar and in purchased batteries, but I've also heard that you can use a bi-directional car battery as a battery to recharge your house. Do you know anything about that? I don't know how much more expensive they are than regular EV batteries. Have
I
any
know
ideas?
very little about it. I do know that there are several projects, pilot projects in the country. So this is called V2G. V2G is vehicle to grid. And the Ford F-150, the giant EV Ford truck, is capable of doing V2G. And there are a number of pilot programs with that specific vehicle. And there are also a lot of projects across the country now with school buses. Electric, you have to recognize that part of the IRA has been funding school buses, electric school buses all over the country. And in Pennsylvania, we already have in Hilton, in right outside of Harrisburg, we've got an incredibly thoughtful school superintendent who not only has 100% solar for his school district, but now he's partnered with its EV bus company to charge all of those buses with solar. And they've connected the V2G, so all of the excess is going to the grid, and they're getting compensated for that. So it's making money for the school. It's this guy is so smart. And there's a very, very poor, very low income school district. So it's just a brilliant success story. So that is rapidly coming. But I know very little about it. I'm sorry, I'm not the expert.
Thanks.
Bruce?
Yeah, thanks, Liz. Well, as you know, we live in the woods, and in order to benefit from rooftop solar, we'd have to cut down like 12, 15, 20, 50 to 100-year-old trees. We're not going to do that. If Pennsylvania approves of community solar, we could obviously buy into that, and I gather then we would be able to get some kind of rebate of the kind you've been talking about. Or the other possibility is, and I don't know anything about this really. You mentioned what Posigen, we can rent solar. Anyway, those are my two questions.
Right. So the avenues for people who, like you, have too many wonderful trees are several. If community solar were to pass in Pennsylvania, yes, you could definitely participate in that. We did get the bill passed in the House in the last session. It did not pass in the Senate, and we are entering a new legislative session. So the bills, all bills, have to be reintroduced in this session. So beginning in January, that process will start. We're also working on myself and a bunch of colleagues are working on community choice aggregation. This is similar to community solar, and frankly, I think it is more likely to succeed in Pennsylvania because it is already legal for boroughs. So Swarthmore, for example, where Tom Jenick is one of the boroughs that has come joined with us, and State College is another. So there are 8 boroughs that are part of this initial group. So I believe that that will move forward before we pass community solar. As you may know, Democrats did not gain any seats in the Senate. So there's still a 6 seat majority of Republicans. And I'm not terribly optimistic about community solar passing. Other people are, and I wish I shared their optimism, but that's just me. Did that answer your question?
Well, you said something about renting solar posigen or something.
Leasing, yes, leasing. The Posigen is using your own roof. So you won't escape the problem of the trees. So
Right.
the way Posigen works is they do both energy efficiency and solar, and they guarantee savings to the customer, which is excellent. And they really are a very fine company. So I trust them, and I do know about other solar leasing companies that I would not recommend. So I'm always looking for the ones that are really reliable.
Thanks.
Sure. Nathan.
My question is a similar question, so it kind of piggybacks. We had solar companies come out to our house maybe 10 years ago, thinking that we could get solar because we do get a lot of light, but we didn't consume enough electricity to qualify. We don't really use enough they would like to see people who use more electricity. So my first question is, is sort of like, is that still the standard that they use? How much?
No.
Okay.
No. Where
So
are you based?
in Maryland on the Eastern Shore.
Okay. I'm less familiar with the contractors in Maryland, but I know a lot of the contractors in Philly work in Maryland also. But it has really little to do with how much power you consume. And frankly, if you're like me and you are electrifying your end uses, your electric bill is going to be rising a bit as you offset the fossil fuel use. So when we bought an electric vehicle, for example, we charge the vehicle at home. So, we're not going to the gasoline station anymore. The gas station, thankfully, I don't ever have to go there again. But, we are increasing our electric load. So you have to think
Yeah.
about that as you're moving along this path.
Yeah, I think yes.
But a good solar installer is never going to tell you that you don't use enough electricity. That's silly.
Okay. And then my other question was sort of a similar one, which is I didn't see it in the statistics in the pie chart, but living in old houses my whole life, and everyone in my family does, I know that energy efficiency is really the thing that we're doing. We're always leaking all year round. And is there a lot of incentive around helping people to get their houses to just function better the way they are?
Yes, yes. So in Maryland, you have really good programs that are run by the Maryland Energy Authority. I would go to their website and look for the energy efficiency programs that are available. I'm always amazed at the wonderful incentives in Maryland. I don't know them, I don't know the detail, as well as I know Pennsylvania's detail, but the Maryland Energy Authority has really run excellent programs for years and years. I also live in an old house. This house was built in 1882, and it was very leaky when we bought it. And we have chipped away, chipped away, chipped away, chipped away, chipped away, and made it, much tighter. And I'll just tell you a story here for a second. We got all the way to Thanksgiving without turning on the heat. So if your home is really tight, you can, I always say you could light it with a heat it with a candle. That's an exaggeration, but you want to get your home to be really, really snug. And you're right, that's how you save the most money. Tom?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, I saw on that this is being recorded, and there were a lot of websites that were referred to. How might we get those after this is over?
We're going to send out the slides and the recording.
Okay, fine. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Thanks.
Liz, I think Ed Dreby had his hand up, but not electronically, so he's not moving
Oh.
up to the top of the page.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Hi, Ed.
I don't, can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know how to put it up electronically. And my question is probably irrelevant to what you're talking about. But our climate crisis, it's in the chat, our climate crisis committee has been concerned about hydrogen hubs.
Mm-hmm.
And just wondering whether you and or Bert are at all familiar with the hydrogen hubs and our concerns about them, that the way they seem to be unfolding is going to become a boon for the natural gas industry rather than an improvement on the transition to a low carbon economy, shall we put it that way? So you can just say no, that's not something you know about, but I just want people to be aware of it because that's something that has been of great concern to us.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't know enough about it. I do know that these concerns are real. Steve Locken, are you able to say anything about that?
Well, I can just share a little bit about the concern, and that is that the hydrogen is really more like a battery than it is a primary fuel because it doesn't occur naturally in the form of H2 except in very tiny quantities. So the the issue with a hydrogen hub would be that most of the hydrogen can be made in two ways, either by electrolysis of water, in which case you could use, say, solar cells to break the water apart, leaving you with oxygen and hydrogen, and they would take the hydrogen and put it into the hydrogen hub. That would be a so-called clean way to do this. But the more common way and the way that the fossil fuel people are looking at is to break apart methane. And so the methane can be reacted to get hydrogen from it. And unfortunately, that leads to the possibility of escaped methane. Now, once the hydrogen is extracted, then hydrogen can also escape. And if it gets into the upper atmosphere, it can increase the lifetime of the methane that's up there. And that tends to, exacerbate our problem with greenhouse gases. So that's the issue that Ed's getting at here, I think. Is that right, Ed? Is that a good summary?
Yes, and we've just sent stuff to Pat Finley. We've sent some questions to the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations to ask if our concern about this is accurate. And we haven't gotten a response yet. And if we get a response, we will share it with Pat and with everybody else who's involved with the issues that are addressed on this whatever you call it. I can't remember names of things, but this event. Thanks.
I would think that, given the Trump administration's fondness for fossil fuels, that the federal level will not be a place to soon, in January, will not be an avenue for restraint. But two of these hubs are in Pennsylvania, and the governor certainly has a lot to say about their future. So it may be that Shapiro and his national ambitions in the next election, he's certainly probably going to throw his hat in the ring in the next election for president. That would be where the greatest leverage could be.
And the big question is whether anything can be done by the Biden administration before Trump comes in to, in some way, affect what's going on to the disadvantage rather than the advantage of the gas industry. And so we will let, through Pat Finley, we'll let everyone know if there's anything that can be done.
Right. Well, that's a big question. All right. Any small questions? Any small questions?
Sorry about the big one.
Are there any other questions folks have? Patricia, Pat.
Given what Ed just shared, would this group like to have the document that Ed shared with me regarding the hydrogen hub? I can send that along as well.
Pat, why don't you wait until we find out if we get a response?
Okay. All right.
If we don't get a response, it's down the tubes.
Okay. Thank you, Ed.
Bruce?
It's Demi.
Hi,
Hi, Demi.
So Liz, Bruce has said, and even maybe as recently as today, that to somebody, or that, green energy, I'll say. So this is a very general question, so say anything you'd like, but that things are progressing pretty quickly in a positive direction as far as more renewable energy that people can access. So that's the positive side. But of course, we have this new administration. So let's say you were wanting to tell somebody, so two things. Number one, you were trying to tell somebody, look, there's a lot to be hopeful about here going forward. We're going to get more and more renewable energy. And then what the caveat is because of the new administration.
Right. Well, solar energy is now the cheapest form of energy. So it's the least expensive form of energy on the planet. And it will remain so for the foreseeable future because prices are continuing to come down in both the manufacture of solar and in batteries. So both of those components, and people need to begin thinking about solar together with batteries. So because it's so cheap, everyone uses it. So, you hear about the new data centers that are being built across the country, and they're striking up deals for solar power. Well, they're striking up deals for solar power not just because they want to look virtuous, but because it's cheap. So, that's the biggest driver now is the marketplace itself. What I will say is that there are a lot of regulatory. So the big picture here is that the United States is moving from the big central power model, where we have a great big giant central power station, to a very decentralized model. And in order to make that transition structurally, we need new regulatory frameworks. And we don't have them yet. So in every state, we're struggling with the grid is not configured properly to handle all of these new small. So anyway, it's a structural issue, and we do need structural change. And that's where government is key. So the Trump administration will favor the old model for certain. And we will not be moving as quickly as we need to. during the next administration. That is for certain. So we will still be progressing, and the technologies are extraordinary, but the regulatory framework is really not moving as quickly as it needs to. I would encourage people who are really interested in the policy side of things to pay a lot more attention to their public utility commissions and to focus on what the public utility commissions should be doing, because there's tremendous progress that they can make. And this is really true in Pennsylvania. So, state level work is both legislative and regulatory. And oftentimes people just look at the legislature and they forget about the regulation side of things. But regulation is key. And there's a tremendous amount of work that can be done there. So, it's my own personal feeling about this is that we have to push as hard as we can at every opportunity that we have. And we just have to keep pushing. We won't win all of these battles, but we have to keep pushing as hard as we can.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, I think we're actually over time. Thanks everybody so much for your attention and your time. And I hope I haven't neglected any questions. Are there any burning questions anybody has? Last minute burning questions? Oh, okay. Well, I encourage everybody to check this out. We're going to be sending the recording to you as soon as we can. And we hope to be in constant contact. But great to see everyone tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Bert.
Thank you, Liz and Bert.
Thank you, everyone. Glad you were here.
Thanks.
Thanks, Liz. And thanks,
Good
Bert.
job,
Thank you,
everyone.
Liz.
Really good.
Oh, good. I'm
Oh,
going to
very
try to
good.
copy this chat before I
I
forget.
just copied it too, and I think I got the very last entry. And if we're still here, you can copy it anytime, right?
Great. Yeah. And I will stop recording.
I'm glad we left a lot of time for questions and answers, because in-person or questions are so much easier to respond to than trying to answer in the chat. And if you didn't get it right, then